Let's be honest, leading today feels like you're trying to navigate a perfect storm, right? You've got economic turbulence, crazy tech revolutions, geopolitical shifts. I mean, the old maps are completely useless. So, what's in the modern leader's survival kit? Well, we're going to unpack the essential tools, straight from the latest thinking at Harvard Business Review. So, the first thing we've got to get our heads around is this: the old ways of leading, they just won't cut it anymore. That traditional playbook, command and control, the leader has all the answers, it's officially obsolete. This new world we're in demands a completely different set of tools. And this quote from NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang it nails this first major shift perfectly. He says, "I probably give fewer answers and I ask a lot more questions." See, this isn't just some stylistic choice. It's a fundamental change in what a leader even does. And that brings us to our very first tool, which is all about making that move from a leader who knows everything to a leader who inquires about everything. Okay, so let's call this first tool the question compass, and think about why this is so critical right now. We live in an age where AI can spit out answers in a fraction of a second. So the real differentiator, the real value a leader brings, it's the ability to craft smart prompts to guide their team with the right questions. The value has shifted. It's not about having the answer anymore. It's about asking the question that unlocks it. Now, what's so cool here is how this breaks down asking good questions into a super practical framework. HBR points to 5 key types. You've got investigative questions, right? That's for digging into what's known and what's not. Then you've got speculative questions, the what-ifs that really spark creativity. Productive questions are all about execution, the now what. But, and this is key, it doesn't stop there. You need interpretive questions to make sense of it all, to ask, so what? And maybe most importantly, subjective questions to uncover those unsaid emotions and reservations. The best leaders, they're using a mix of all 5 all the time. Okay, so you're asking all the right questions. Awesome. But what's next? Well, you need an environment, a culture, where your team can actually answer them, and answer them consistently. And that brings us to our second tool, the culture blueprint. And let me be clear, this is not about putting some motivational posters up on the wall. This is about designing an actual system that helps people make real-world decisions. And here's the thing. Here's where most corporate values just completely fail. They're all about these abstract ideals, words like integrity or transparency. They sound great, for sure, but what happens when those values actually conflict with each other? What do you do when being transparent might actually cause panic and hurt your team's stability? That's the moment where most value statements just fall apart. And this is such a perfect illustration of the solution. A really strong culture isn't built on fluffy ideals, it's built on helping people through real dilemmas. Just look at this scenario, right? A big reorg is coming. Do you lean toward team stability and keep quiet for now? Or do you lean toward transparency and tell them what you know? Both options have merit. A well-designed culture, a true culture blueprint, gives you a clear directive. It basically says, look, in this company, when faced with this exact choice, we go with option B. It turns culture from a passive statement into an active, practical guide for the tough calls. All right, let's move on to tool number 3. This one zeroes in on what is arguably the most important team in any company, the leadership team itself. Because let's face it, if things are dysfunctional at the top, that dysfunction just cascades down through the entire organization. So this tool, the team diagnostic, is all about taking an honest look in the mirror and fixing the problems that plague so many executive teams. And HBR has this fantastic and kind of provocative way of framing it. They ask, is your leadership team a shark tank, a petting zoo, or a mediocrity? And look, these aren't just funny names. They represent 3 very real and very damaging patterns of team dysfunction. So here's how it breaks down. A shark tank? That's when there's way too much competition. It leads to all this infighting and political maneuvering. A petting zoo, on the other hand, overcorrects. It's all about forced harmony and avoiding conflict, which means nobody ever challenges a bad idea. And then there's the mediocrity, which is kind of the worst of both worlds. You get neither healthy competition nor real collaboration, just complacency. The big takeaway here is that you need a healthy balance of both competition and collaboration to really perform at a high level. So once you have a high-performing leadership team, what do they need? They need a clear playbook. And for leaders of those big, complex, multi-business companies, that playbook is all about corporate strategy. This leads us right into our 4th tool, the strategy spectrum. It's a really smart framework for getting super clear on how, exactly, a parent company adds value to all the different businesses it owns. Now, the most important thing to understand about this strategy continuum is that it's not about one end being better than the other. Being highly related isn't inherently superior to being unrelated. The absolute key here is alignment. Your success depends completely on making sure your management style, your company structure, everything is perfectly aligned with where you sit on this spectrum.
And this really makes the whole concept crystal clear. If you look at the far left, you've got a company like Berkshire Partners. Its businesses are highly unrelated, so the parent company adds value through things like smart financial oversight and allocating capital. Now, move to the middle. You've got Danaher. Its businesses are loosely related, and the value they add comes from applying a common, world-class management system across the board. Then, all the way on the right, you have a company like Clorox. It creates value by sharing things like supply chains and brand management across its portfolio of highly related products. See? 3 totally different spots on the spectrum and 3 totally different but very successful ways to add value.
So, let's start to pull all this together. What's the big picture here? Well, it's that the modern leader's edge doesn't come from having some single silver billet. It's about mastering a whole toolkit, a diverse and adaptable set of tools, so you can tackle whatever challenges come your way. And here they are, right? The 4 core tools for your 2026 toolkit. You've got the question compass to guide your team's thinking, the culture blueprint to guide their decisions, the team diagnostic to make sure the leadership team is healthy, and the strategy spectrum to align your entire structure with how you actually create value. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought, a kind of bonus insight. How does all this play out in the real world? Let's look at a powerful example of modern leadership in action, applied to probably one of the biggest debates out there today: hybrid work. This is really where that question compass meets cold, hard data. Check this out. A huge randomized A/B test was done at a company called Trip.com, and what they found was that a hybrid schedule reduced the rate at which employees quit by a staggering 35%. I mean, think about that. In a tough labor market, that is a massive, massive financial benefit.
But okay, what about the downside? What was the negative impacts on things like productivity or performance reviews or promotions? The answer? 0. A big fat 0. Absolutely none. That huge fear that productivity would just plummet, the evidence just didn't support it at all.
And that brings us to what might be the ultimate point. The most powerful tool isn't just one of the 4 we talked about. It's the mindset behind an experiment like that. Leading with evidence, leading with rigorous testing, leading with data, not just your gut instinct or what you see other companies doing. That is the master key in the modern leader's toolkit. So as you can see, these tools aren't just abstract theories from a business journal. They're practical instruments you can use to navigate the chaos. They're all about a huge shift, from leading by just telling people what to do, to leading by asking, by designing, and by diagnosing. So as you look ahead, here's the final question for you to think about. Which of these tools in your own leadership toolkit is already the sharpest? And maybe more importantly, which one are you going to focus on honing for the challenges of 2026?